Welcome to Data&Logics. I'm absolutely thrilled to share today's explainer with you because we're tackling something we literally all interact with every single day. But, we rarely stop to actually measure it. We're looking at the staggering, hidden global reality of food waste. It's an issue that hits our wallets, our cultures, and our planet in ways that are frankly going to genuinely surprise you. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. 1. The scale of the waste. 2. A surprising global paradigm. 3. The hidden environmental toll. 4. Tracking the missing data. 5. Corporate and cultural solutions. And 6. How you can help. Part 1. The scale of the waste. Measuring the missing meals. Look at this number. 1 billion metric tons. According to the United Nations Environment Program, that is exactly how much food went to waste globally in just a single year. To put that into perspective, that means nearly a fifth, almost 20% of all the food produced across the globe is just never eaten. It's tossed out. That averages out to about 174 pounds of food per person every single year. Unbelievable, right? And when we translate that lost food into financial terms, the economic reality is just as staggering. We are looking at over $1 trillion in lost economic value globally, year after year. Just imagine what we could do with $1 trillion. And remember, right now, we have nearly 1 in 10 people around the world exposed to severe food insecurity. Reducing our food loss by just 50% would provide enough food to feed all of those people, and then some. It would absolutely be a game changer. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer velocity of the problem. Right here in the United States alone, 20 tons of food is thrown out every 10 seconds. So picture a fully loaded yellow school bus. Now picture that bus crashing right into a landfill every 10 seconds, around the clock. That is the physical weight of what we are constantly discarding. Part 2. A surprising global paradigm, the income myth. Now what's really interesting here is the data itself. Historically, there's been this persistent narrative that massive food waste is strictly a problem found in wealthy, high-income nations. But reviewing the 2024 per capita data, high waste actually crosses all global income brackets. The Maldives sits at 207 kilograms per person, Pakistan at 130 kilograms, Nigeria at 113. Compare that to the United States at 73 kilograms. The data neutrally reports that food waste is truly a global paradigm. It isn't isolated to any single demographic. However, while the sheer amount of waste is a shared global issue, the systemic causes are vastly different depending on the region. In higher income nations, a massive 40% of food loss happens at the retail and consumer levels. Think about those super strict cosmetic standards in supermarkets, or let's be honest, us just buying way more than we can actually eat. Conversely, in lower income nations, the losses occur much earlier in the supply chain. We're talking about poor storage facilities, transport spoilage, and a lack of reliable refrigeration. The waste happens everywhere, but the mechanisms behind it are completely different. Part 3. The hidden environmental toll, embodied resources. Globally, a staggering 70% of all the freshwater we use goes strictly to agriculture. So when we throw away food, we aren't just throwing out a piece of fruit. We are throwing out all the precious water that went into making it. Annually, the water wasted on uneaten food is equivalent to 250 cubic kilometers. That is enough to fill up 100 million Olympic-sized swimming pools, literally down the drain. We call this concept embodied energy, and the milk carton analogy makes it incredibly clear. If you pour a spoiled carton of milk down the sink, you aren't just wasting the milk itself, you're wasting the land and the water required to grow the feed for the dairy cow. You're wasting the labor to milk that cow, the energy to process the milk, the fuel used to transport it to your grocery store, and the electricity to keep it cold in your fridge. Every single wasted item carries this massive compounding environmental toll. It's like a giant domino effect. And that leads directly to this truly shocking reality. When all that organic matter goes into a landfill, it emits methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. Overall, food loss and waste are responsible for 8 to 10% of all global greenhouse gas emissions. Get this, if global food waste were its own country, it would rank as the 3rd largest emitter in the entire world, right behind China and the United States. No way, right? Part 4. Tracking the missing data. Why we don't know everything. So, the crucial point is that tracking organic waste across complex global supply chains is inherently challenging. Our data is totally incomplete. I mean, we don't exactly have scales on our kitchen garbage cans at home, do we? On the corporate side, many companies have historically been hesitant to publish their waste data due to perceived reputational risks. And at the very beginning of the chain, on the farm, it's incredibly difficult to isolate exactly why food was lost. Because of these hurdles, only about 12% of the global population lives in countries actively tracking their food waste. But policies are evolving, and the data is getting better. Japan has been a pioneer here. They passed a waste measurement law way back in 2001, and by 2008, they were already tracking a 31% reduction. Fast forward to 2021, and the UN Environment Program managed to double the amount of global data we have on this topic. By 2023, major corporate players like IKEA hit massive reduction milestones. All of this evolving policy and tracking is driving us toward one critical 2030 goal, the UN's target to halve global food waste.
Part 5. Corporate and Cultural Solutions, Shifting the Mindset.
One of the reasons Japan has been so successful is deeply rooted in their culture, specifically this concept, mottainai. This is a beautiful term that expresses a profound sense of regret over wasting something. It's a mindset that inherently values resources and conservation. Embracing this idea gracefully shifts the emotional tone of our explainer from environmental guilt to a profound everyday respect for the resources we consume. And that respect for resources also translates to incredible financial wins. Take IKEA, for example. They pledged to halve their food waste by 2030, and they actually achieved it in 2023, literally years ahead of schedule. As the World Resources Institute notes, saving 20 million meals and preventing 36,000 tons of greenhouse gases isn't just good for the Earth. This shift is saving IKEA $37 million annually. It proves that sustainable corporate practices aren't just a nice to have, they are incredibly profitable. Let's move to and see how this built. So how exactly did IKEA achieve a 54% reduction operationally? Well, by aggressively tracking the data, they implemented smart scales in all their restaurant kitchens to precisely measure what was being thrown out. They formed dedicated waste reduction teams, and they even partnered with the Too Good To Go app so customers could purchase discounted meals that would otherwise just be discarded. Part 6, how you can help, from macro to micro. Because households are actually the largest segment of food going to waste, you have incredible power to shrink your personal footprint. Here are 4 straightforward steps. Number 1, plan your meals so you only buy what you actually need. Number 2, embrace cosmetically imperfect or ugly foods at the store. They are perfectly nutritious and often just get discarded. Number 3, use your freezer. It is an amazing tool for keeping leftovers fresh. And number 4, compost your organic waste to keep it out of the landfill and stop those nasty methane emissions. The data shows us that the solutions aren't necessarily rocket science, right? They're about intention, planning, and a deep respect for our resources. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider the next time you open your fridge or scrape a plate. What will you save from the landfill today? Subscribe for more informative videos.